There is a fascinating paradox at the heart of modern engineering. When we look at telemetry data, altitudes of 250 kilometers, velocities hitting 7.8 kilometers per second, we see the absolute pinnacle of human mathematical and physical triumph. Yet underneath these nominal system statuses lies a complex web of deeply human, ancient psychological coping mechanisms. Here we see a heavy juxtaposition. On one hand, you have the unforgiving equations of orbital mechanics calculating precise changes in velocity, propellant mass fractions, and gravitational variables. It is the ultimate triumph of reason. On the other hand, space agencies globally rely on old traditions, religious folklore, and superstitions to handle the immense, life-threatening risks of spaceflight. Even when surrounded by the most advanced technology humanity has ever built, when faced with the void, we still turn to ancient methods for emotional comfort. To understand why rocket scientists carry good luck charms, we look to anthropologist Bronisław Malinowski. He established that when human beings face high-stress situations where they have very little actual control, they naturally turn to magic and ritual. Think of astronauts and mission controllers as passengers on a controlled explosion. They have very limited influence over the physics once the fuse is lit. By rigidly repeating the exact actions of past successful missions, they build a psychological illusion of control and causality. This ritual activation curve shows that as actual physical control approaches zero, moving from prep to rollout, ignition, and finally orbit, the reliance on ritualistic behaviour spikes drastically to prevent overwhelming anxiety. This matrix maps out how different spacefaring cultures have ritualized their launch countdowns. Notice how the items span from Yuri Gagarin's legacy in 1961 down to NASA's Mercury 7 and India's Vedic traditions. We see everything from sacramental foods like steak and eggs or broken coconuts to core talismans like a zero-G indicator named Boris, horseshoes, or lucky peanuts. Each of these serves a distinct psychological function: taboo avoidance, apostolic succession, or expelling bad luck to maintain a liturgy of continuity. The Russian space agency Roscosmos has perhaps the most deeply entrenched apostolic succession of rituals, directly tracking back to Yuri Gagarin. 2 weeks out at Star City, crews visit Gagarin's perfectly preserved office, untouched since his death in 1968, to sign his guestbook and symbolically ask his ghost for permission to fly. They lay red carnations for fallen crews, plant a sapling at Baikonur in the Avenue of the Cosmonauts, and are strictly forbidden from watching their own rocket rollout 48 hours before launch to avoid jinxing it. Instead, they get a haircut. Rollout guests place coins on the rails to be flattened by the rocket train. The night before, they must watch the 1969 film White Sun of the Desert. On launch day, they sip champagne, sign their hotel room door, and depart to the specific 1983 rock song, The Green Grass Near My Home. This brings us to what is arguably the most famous non-negotiable sacrament in Russian spaceflight, which takes place right on the transfer bus to the launch pad. The crew, completely suited up, steps off the bus to urinate on the rear right tire. This is an exact replication of what Yuri Gagarin did out of absolute biological necessity in 1961, because early Vostok suits lacked waste management. Modern Sokol suits have fully functional waste collection systems. Yet the ritual remains absolute dogma purely to avoid breaking the chain of success. It is so vital that female cosmonauts, who cannot easily do this in a spacesuit, have been known to bring vials of their own urine to sprinkle on the tire so they aren't left out of the protective tradition. Shifting over to the US, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory managed a string of devastating failures between 1961 and 1964 with its Ranger project. 6 consecutive probes malfunctioned, missed the moon entirely, or crashed silently. The stress in mission control was massive. On July 28, 1964, during the Ranger 7 launch, trajectory engineer Dick Wallace handed out peanuts to everyone just to take the edge off the anxiety. Unbelievably, Ranger 7 performed flawlessly and returned the first close-up images of the moon. From that day on, peanuts became permanently encoded into JPL culture. They are mandatory for every orbit insertion, flyby, and Mars landing. On the rare occasions they were forgotten, like during the Cassini launch in 1997, technical delays immediately cropped up until someone ran out to retrieve the peanuts. Let's break down 3 distinct panels of American launch rituals. Panel 1 shows the low-residue sacrament, a rigid launch day breakfast of steak and eggs. This started in 1961 because it was high protein and low residue, minimizing the physical need to use a bathroom inside a primitive capsule. Today, even completely nauseous astronauts force it down to avoid jinxing the flight. Panel 2 represents contact magic. During suit up, astronauts recline in the exact same Easy Boy chairs used since the Apollo era. Landing a chair previously occupied by an iconic astronaut is seen as a literal, physical transfer of good fortune. Panel 3 is about expelling misfortune. Before leaving suit-up room, the mission commander must play a card game called Possum's Fargo with the technicians. The crew is stuck there and cannot leave for the pad until the commander actually loses a hand to a specific winning combination. This intentional loss is viewed as leaving all bad luck behind on Earth. While Western agencies have unofficial or quietly tolerated superstitions, the Indian Space Research Organization ISRO integrates Vedic traditions directly into their official mission timeline. Before a launch, senior scientists take miniature models of the spacecraft to ancient temples to seek divine blessings, explicitly establishing a spiritual blueprint before any physical fueling happens. Coconuts are ritually broken on the ground to invoke Vignahata, the destroyer of obstacles. A beautiful moment of cross-cultural syncretism happened in 2023. The ISRO chairman broke a traditional coconut on the floor of NASA's JPL facility in California, while NASA officials handed him a jar of their lucky peanuts. It merged two totally different cultural talismans to safeguard a joint interplanetary mission. Here we examine a truly hybrid object that sits right at the intersection of the mystical and the mechanical, the zero-G indicator. In the mystical domain, it's a totem selected personally by the mission commander for luck, traditionally a plush toy frequently named Boris or another significant moniker. It provides psychological comfort and a physical reminder of childhood and Earth. But in the mechanical domain, it functions as a highly reliable, non-electronic sensor. It is totally immune to digital failure, EMPs, or software bugs. The very second the engine's cut off, the object's transition to free floating provides ground controllers with instant, undeniable visual confirmation of orbital insertion and weightlessness. Geography itself generates its own folklore to counter place-based anxiety. Point 1 is Kourou in French Guiana, used by the ESA. Being right near the equator, rockets get a massive physical boost of plus 460 meters per second from the Earth's rotation. But because the facility was built over displaced indigenous lands and sits right next to the brutal, notorious Devil's Island penal colony, engineers have developed a highly superstitious culture specifically to counter the heavy spirits of the surrounding jungle. Point 2 is Vandenberg Space Launch Complex 6 in the United States. After a series of catastrophic rocket failures during the Cold War, a rumor took hold that the pad was cursed because it sat on Native American burial grounds. Even though no graves were ever found, the psychological anxiety was so severe that a contractor eventually brought in a Native American elder to perform a cleansing ritual on the pad. It successfully restored the engineering team's confidence, and subsequent launches succeeded. When we look at the artifacts humans carry into the void, we are seeing a secular space turned into a reliquary. In 2022, an Israeli astronaut carried a microscopic nano-Bible to the ISS to connect distance, time, past, and future in a hostile environment. In the Russian segment of the ISS, orthodox icons like the Kazan icon are permanently mounted, acting as a visual anchor to the moral world left behind. And famously, in 1971, the crew of Apollo 15 left the fallen astronaut, a small aluminium figure on the lunar surface. It is a classic ritualistic behaviour, colonizing a completely dead alien environment with the spirits of our ancestors. As we look to the future, transitioning from low Earth orbit to true interplanetary travel, humanity will encounter a brand new psychological threat, the disappearing Earth effect. On a mission to Mars, communication delays will stretch to 44 minutes. Crews will watch Earth shrink from a vibrant blue marble down to an insignificant dot in a sea of blackness, completely severing real-time visual connection to humanity. In that extreme isolation, traditional Earth-based support systems will completely fail. It will be these hidden pieces of folklore, our shared relics, our superstitious songs, and our bizarre little countdown rituals that will prove to be the most durable parts of our heritage. As we venture deeper into the cosmic desert, our lowest tech coping mechanisms will inevitably become our highest priority survival tools. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe. It really makes a difference.